So, some huge news just came out of New Delhi. India and Russia have signed a landmark agreement that's really set to reshape their entire economic relationship. Now, this is a deal that's built on a friendship that goes back a century, but it has a seriously bold new ambition for the future. And this really gets the heart of what we're talking about today. In a world where the dollar has been king for, well, forever, why are two global giants like these actively trying to build a system to go around it? The answer, as you'll see, points to a massive strategic shift in the global economy. Right, so this meeting between Prime Minister Modi and President Putin, this was not just another diplomatic photo op. This was about fundamentally rewiring their economic partnership. The goal here is really twofold. First, to strengthen a historic friendship, and second, and this is crucial, to cut down on their shared dependency on the US dollar for trade. At the heart of this whole agreement is a simple but pretty revolutionary idea, making it way easier to trade directly using their own currencies, the Indian rupee and the Russian ruble. The whole point is to cut out the middleman, which in this case has always been the US dollar. Now, this ambition has a big, headline-grabbing number attached to it, what we're calling the 100 billion handshake. And to really understand just how huge of a leap this is, you have to look at where they're coming from. For the longest time, trade between India and Russia just kind of hovered around what some experts have called, dismal levels. We're talking just $10 billion a year. It was always a solid relationship, for sure, but the economic numbers never really seemed to match its strategic importance. But then, wow, things changed in a big way. In just the last fiscal year, trade absolutely skyrocketed to almost $69 billion. That is nearly a seven-fold increase. This incredible surge is the launching pad for their new, even bolder target. And that brings us to the new magic number, $100 billion in annual trade by the year 2030. Look, this isn't just a small step up, it's a major statement. It's them saying they want to push this economic partnership into the absolute top tier globally. And what's really interesting is that the political ambition here is something you can almost feel. Prime Minister Modi didn't just sign off on the 2030 goal. He came out and publicly said he thinks they can hit this massive number even sooner. That just shows you how much momentum there is at the very highest levels. Okay, so the big question is, how are they actually going to hit this $100 billion goal? Well, it all comes down to building a whole new financial system, one that's designed specifically to bypass the dollar. So let's do a quick primer. When we talk about trade in national currencies, it's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. An Indian company can pay for Russian goods in rupees, and a Russian company can pay for Indian products in rubles. It just simplifies the whole process and protects their trade from the ups and downs and the politics tied to the dollar. The actual roadmap to get this done is basically a three-step approach. First, you've got to tackle the trade barriers, cut the tariffs and red tape. Second, you integrate their financial systems so their payment networks can actually talk to each other seamlessly. And third, you have to improve the physical plumbing of trade itself, fixing the bottlenecks in shipping and logistics. But as we've kind of hinted at, this whole economic plan is really just one piece of a much, much larger puzzle. The India-Russia relationship is what they officially call a special and privileged strategic partnership. And this trade deal is meant to make all the other pillars of that partnership even stronger. And the scope of this thing is just vast. It covers deep cooperation in the energy sector and the construction of these massive new transport corridors. And we're not just talking about a few new roads and shipping lanes here. Routes like the North-South Corridor and the Chennai-Vladivostok Sea Lane are literally designed to physically weave their economies together for a super interconnected future. So, with all this incredible ambition and all this planning, we have to ask the big question, can they really pull it off? Is a $100 billion trade relationship by 2030, or maybe even earlier, a realistic goal, or is it just a lofty dream? So, on one side, you have this powerful political will, with leaders like Prime Minister Modi expressing total confidence. But on the other side, you've got more cautious analysts who, while they totally agree that strong growth is a given, are calling that 2030 timeline debatable. It gives us a really balanced picture of the challenge ahead. But here is the most crucial takeaway, and it's summed up perfectly by the expert Lydia Kulik. Whether they hit exactly $100 billion by 2030 is almost not the point. What is absolutely certain is that the old days of a $10 billion relationship, those are over. For good. The foundation itself has totally changed. And why is everyone so confident in this new foundation?
Well, because the real engine here isn't just a government agreement made at the top. It's an organic, bottom-up interest from actual businesses in both countries. These are companies that are actively looking for each other, finding new opportunities, and building real commercial connections. That's what makes this growth feel so real and sustainable.
And all of this leaves us with one final, pretty thought-provoking question. As India and Russia build this new economic corridor, are we just watching two partners strengthen their ties? Or are we actually witnessing one of the first major cracks in a dollar-dominated global system, and maybe a sign of a new, multipolar economic world starting to take shape?